UFC Fight Night, Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov, predictions, betting breakdown, as well as the weigh-in recap. I'm going to look at all of the fights on the card after the weigh-ins are done, because you never know, there could have been some bad weigh-ins, and we got to look at what they're looking like on the scales, because it could definitely impact how good they do come fight night. We're also going to look at some of the betting odds for a lot of these fights and figure out something there. Of course, we're going to start with the bottom, make our way to the top, and give you my thoughts on every single fight. Of course, if you do want all the bets that I am going to be making, we have 2 parlays this weekend, 3 prop bets, and I believe 6 money line bets over, and I believe about a dozen bets for this card. If you want to see all of them, it's $1.25 per card. It is going to be in that link in the top of the description or that pinned comment down below. Make sure to go check it out and become a channel member today. But let's get started with fight number 1, Cedric Dumas taking on Denis Chunin. I think that's how you say the name. Cedric is at -210. That's the best you're going to get him. The best you're going to get Denis Chunin is going to be at +205. So almost some arbitrage action available on this fight at 185 pounds. I do believe Dumas wins. I don't think Denis Chunin as an underdog is that good of a bet, if I'm being just straight up with you guys. Odds to go to a decision are interesting. I actually have as my prediction Cedric Dumas to win the fight by a decision. So the odds there aren't necessarily horrible for Dumas by decision. +300 on Betway is actually decent value. So I wouldn't do the Denis Chunin underdog bet there. I said in my confident picks video, I didn't think there was a lot of value on Denis Chunin as the dog. The money line on Dumas, I mean, there's other favorites around that size. Other than Dumas, that the money line would probably be better than. But my prediction is Dumas by decision, and that is at +300. So not horrible odds right there. And then we're going to find where Cedric Dumas is on the scales. This is what he's looking like. It doesn't look like he's cut a crazy amount of weight. I've actually watched interviews with Cedric Dumas saying that he's had one of the best weight cuts ever for this fight, and he's walking around a lot lighter, so the cut was going to be a lot easier. Now his opponent, if we can go ahead and try to find him here in the UFC's middleweight division, Denis Chunin, also looked pretty decent. The face didn't look sunk in or anything like that. So I don't believe either guy really had too bad of a weight cut here. In the middleweight division, I don't think that's going to play too much of a factor here. So Denis Chunin, I got him losing by a decision in that middleweight matchup. We got Yahya Herbert taking on Rolando Bedoya in the second fight at 155 pounds. Prediction was Rolando Bedoya as the dog, so I mean, straight up with you guys. He's plus money, so come on. Obviously would be a decent bet. If you have a fighter that you believe is going to win, bet on them if they are going to be plus money, because that's a valuable bet. If we're looking at the props, though, my prediction for Rolando Bedoya to win was going to be by a decision. The odds you are going to get at that, again, are the same as the Cedric Dumas one, which is really interesting. +300 is what you're going to get on Bedoya by a decision, which I don't think is too horrible now that the money line bet on Rolando Bedoya is kind of gone, if we're being honest here. So decision bet wouldn't be too bad. I don't remember how many times Yahya Herbert has been knocked out, but I know he's been finished before, so it is a little bit risky. There's been knocked out 3 times, lost 1 by submission, and has only lost a decision, but it was in his last fight with Ferguson, and his last 3 have gone all the way. So maybe a decision bet there for Rolando Bedoya, but a good fight nonetheless. I am actually pretty excited for that fight at 155 pounds. Rolando looked a little bit weird on the scales. I don't know if it's just the new facial hair that he does have, but this is a new weight class for him. He was fighting in the welterweight division, and now he is fighting in the lightweight division. Obviously, it doesn't look like he was having the most fun of his life, but didn't look like out of the ordinary horrible going down to this new weight class at 155 pounds, taking on this new opponent in Yahya Herbert. If we're looking at where Yahya Herbert is on the scales, he looked great. I mean, he looked really, really good on the scales. The ab definition, the face didn't really look sunk in. Muscles looking good. Everything looking good for Yahya Herbert. But there was that scare of, will Rolando Bedoya look the same in the new weight class? He's coming down to 155. That's 15 pounds more from the welterweight division. I'm going to be honest here. I'm a little bit worried because looking at him on the scales, looked like he had a rough time. He didn't look sunken in or anything, but just based off the facial expressions, he does look a little bit worse than Jai Herbert there, which is a little bit nerve-wracking in my opinion going into this fight for an underdog that I did predict to win. I mean, he's going down to a new weight class, so does make me a little bit hesitant there. Victoria Dudakova, same Hughes, 115 pounds. Prediction is Victoria Dudakova to win this fight. I think she will outstrike Sam Hughes, and I think the wrestling is just going to be kind of back and forth, pretty even. Both girls having some success there. We'll look at the weigh-ins and everything before we go into the betting for this one first. She looked great. Victoria Dudakova, she's smiling on the scales. No sunken in cheeks or anything like that. Looked like she had a pretty reasonably easy weight cut to get down 115 pounds, where Sam Hughes, I don't know if it's just me, and I would like to see what you guys think as well. She looked a little rough. She did look a little bit rough. It looked like, I mean, she obviously is a religious person. She is very connected to God in a way, but I mean, doing this type of a stuff sometimes could be that you were like, thank you, God, for me making weight and things like that. I don't know. It's just speculation there. But for me, it didn't look like she looked all too great on the scale. This is the other picture they had for Sam Hughes. This one looks a little bit better than that other one, but I still believe, based off the pictures, based off what they look like, I kind of think Victoria Dudakova had to have had the slightly better weight cut, which I guess helps with my prediction of Victoria Dudakova getting the win. Betting odds-wise, -170, right where I would think they are. This is a weird one to bet because I don't really think there's a lot of value on really either side here in the UFC strawweight division. And my prediction is Dudakova by decision, but -115, you're getting minus money for a decision bet. The fight to go to a decision is 4-1, kind of crazy in my opinion. So yeah, not much there with that fight. At 115 pounds, Guram and Jordan Vucenic. I got Guram outstriking Jordan. Jordan's coming in on short notice and things like that. Guram is a better striker. He's more experienced against higher level competition inside of the UFC. Has that win over Gamrot and things like that. I feel pretty good about Guram going out there and getting the win here. At 155 pounds, I'm going to be looking for him really quick. He might be on the other slide here. Guram Kutateladze on the scales right here. Didn't look horrible. This is kind of the norm for Guram Kutateladze. He kind of looks like this always. Looks a little tired, I would say, and looks like he's got a little scratch on his face as well, which is interesting. I don't know if that's always been there or anything like that, but he didn't look horrible. Didn't look anything out of the ordinary for this fight in the UFC lightweight division. Jordan Vucenic right there. I mean, this is his second weight cut in like 2 weeks, which is kind of crazy. So you would expect maybe him to look pretty rough on the scales, but didn't look too horrible as well. He is a guy going from featherweight to lightweight for that last fight and is now staying in the lightweight division for 2 fights in a row. So, I mean, didn't look too bad here. I don't think the weight cut is really going to play a factor with these two fighters. At 155 pounds, betting odds-wise, I think it's right where they should be. Guram, 2-1 favorite over a guy coming in on short notice. Again, if there is going to be a finish, I would actually expect it to be Vucenic, plus 375. A little bit interesting. And even the Vucenic by submission at plus 800 on, is this DraftKings on Betway, which is kind of crazy in my opinion. That's what he does. He submits guys. I just don't think he submits Guram. But if there's a finish, I think it'll be Vucenic. My prediction, Guram by decision. Not much there. Plus 110 on him to win. Again, not a lot there for you. Next one, Shamil Gaziev, Don'Tale Mayes. I do have Guram. Just kidding. I got Shamil Gaziev going out there getting the win, either in that early onslaught, round number 1 TKO, or I think Shamil will win round 1, win round 2, fade a little bit, and then lose the final round. It's heavyweight. This one, there's not much of a weigh-in recap here because it's heavyweight. They don't really cut that much weight. So, I mean, nothing out of the ordinary for Shamil. Don'Tale looks his usual self on the scales as well. So, I don't think there's going to be anything out of the ordinary when it comes to the weigh-ins for both of these guys. Both coming in 265, 262. So, not bad. I think betting odds-wise, Shamil is way too big of a favorite, minus 300. Don't you dare bet that. That's kind of crazy. Fight to go over 2.5 rounds is a little bit plus money. Goes to a decision. plus 169, and I'm torn on going Shamil decision or Shamil knockout. I'm going to be straight up with you guys. And Shamil by knockout, there's not much value there, plus 163, whereas Shamil by decision is crazy. Crazy value. Got the unanimous decision at plus 400. So that could be one definitely worth looking into right there. In the heavyweight division, Shamil Gaziev. Mohamed Yahya, Kawe Fernandes. I do have Kawe winning, but if you guys remember, he's a way too big of a heavy favorite. He's 4-1 over Kawe Fernandes. And the odds to go to a decision are plus money, which I guess that's the only thing you could kind of take out of this fight, is that the decision bet is there for Kawe Fernandes. Mohamed Yahya, if you remember his last fight, his UFC debut, Trevor Peek was not able to finish him. Why should we think and be confident in Kawe Fernandes to go out there and get the finish? I don't understand why it's plus money to go to a decision and why Fernandes is plus 275 to win by a decision. That's crazy in my opinion. So that'd be about it for that fight. If you're going to be betting on it, Mohamed Yahya right here, looking good on the scales. Again, didn't look like he had too bad of a weight cut there. If we're going to find his opponent, Kawe Fernandes, it might be on the other screen. Let's see, he's right here. Also looking really good. The mustache, I'm personally not liking it, but again, he didn't look like he had a really rough weight cut or anything like that. Decision bet, I don't understand why it's that valuable, but that's all I would do. The money line, again, he's way too big of a favorite there, but Mohamed Yahya didn't get finished by Trevor Peek. So next one is going to be at light heavyweight. Very good fight. Alonzo Manfield, Azamat Murzakanov, 13-0 and 15-4-1. I do have Azamat winning by knockout in round number 2. Am I confident in that? No, I'm not. But let's see if we can find these guys on the scales. Again, it's light heavyweight. So we got to see what they're looking like, because some light heavyweights do cut a lot of weight. Azamat, there's something about the picture that makes me look like he had a little bit of a rough weight cut, but I can't really pinpoint it. I'll be honest with you. Alonzo, I believe, cuts a decent amount of weight as well in the UFC's light heavyweight division, but he looked good. He looked great on the scales here. Didn't look like he had a super rough weight cut. I would say Alonzo looks a little bit better on the scales than Azamat Murzakanov, just in my opinion. So I'd say Alonzo probably won the weigh-ins in this case. And I believe, just like a lot of the other fights on this card, this is kind of a dog or pass situation. Azamat being a 2-1 favorite just doesn't make sense. I'm not even going to look at the props for this fight, because I do believe that underdog Alonzo Manfield is the only thing you could really be doing for this fight at 205 pounds. And now that I kind of think the weigh-ins looked a little bit better for Alonzo Manfield, kind of reaffirms my thoughts on that matchup. Joel Alvarez and Elvis Brenner in the lightweight division. I do have Elvis Brenner winning in the later rounds with the strike and with the pressure, with the volume, and mixing in some takedowns as well and controlling it on the floor. I don't believe, like most people are saying, that Joel Alvarez is going to go out there and finish this fight. I highly doubt that's going to happen. Esteban has never been finished, and look at him, man. He looked great on the scales. He's smiling. He doesn't look sunken in. He looks great on the scales. That's a great look for my prediction. Joel Alvarez also smiling on the scales. He hasn't cut weight in a while. He hasn't had a fight in a while, but he looked great on the scales as well. Both men didn't look horrible on the scales, so I don't think that's going to play a factor. Elvis does have better cardio, better pressure, better volume, everything like that. That's why I do have him winning the fight later on in the fight by a decision. And that's exactly that. I have it go into a decision. I got Brenner to win the fight by a decision, plus 350, I guess, on my bookie. Pretty valuable bet there in my opinion. Mackenzie Dern, Lupita Godinez. Pinnacle's still got Lupita at plus 113, plus 110. Straight up, again, like I always say, if I'm predicting an underdog to win, should probably bet that underdog to win, because that is a valuable bet. So obviously, money line wise on Lupita does look very good. I have her by a decision, but if we're looking at Lupita by decision, plus 125, that's barely better than the money line. So yeah, I mean, I have Lupita winning by a decision, but if you're gonna bet her, probably money line would be best. I mean, why would you bet a decision for barely any more value? You're not really getting much of a bang for your buck there. But Lupita looked great on the scales there. She was smiling. She's pointing fingers up in the air. Didn't look like she had a rough time or anything like that. Mackenzie Dern, I believe, is on the other slide. She also looked good. She was smiling, pointing up just like Lupita Godinez. Her eyes looked a little bit iffy there, but again, it could be just she's tired from the travel to Abu Dhabi and things like that. But I think both look pretty good on the scales, and that won't play a factor. Got Lupi winning by a decision. Don't bet her to win by a decision. That's crazy. Ferguson, Chiesa. Before we give the prediction, we'll go on and look at a few of their photos here. Ferguson obviously going to welterweight this time around. Doesn't have to cut to 155 pounds. So obviously he's going to look a little bit more happy on the scales, a little bit better, less sunken in like he does when he does cut to 155 pounds. And his opponent, Michael Chiesa, obviously has been fighting at 170 for quite a while. Was he on the other slide? Did we miss him? He might be up here. There he is. Michael Chiesa. Looked a little bit iffy in the face. Obviously, you see a lot of these fighters smiling and going like this to the cameras. Chiesa looks either dialed in or like he had maybe a slightly bad wake up. But that's kind of the case. Chiesa, I've never really seen him smiling at a weigh-in. You shouldn't really, you don't really expect a fighter to be smiling at the weigh-in or anything like that. I don't really think there's too much to look on there for Chiesa. He didn't look too bad. Tony Ferguson looked great. Obviously, he's not cutting 15 more pounds than he usually does, so yeah. I do have Chiesa winning with the wrestling and with the grappling, grinding Tony Ferguson for 3 rounds, keeping the striking as even as possible, staying away from the elbow of Tony Ferguson there, and I got him by a decision. That would be interesting to look at, because the fight to go to a decision is actually plus money. I'm actually shocked looking at it right now, because I didn't actually look at these odds before looking at it. I'm giving you the raw thoughts on these betting odds. I'm surprised the odds are plus money to go all the way when, you know, Paddy Pimblett wasn't able to finish him, so why should Chiesa be able to if Charles Oliveira wasn't able to, Beneil Dariush wasn't able to? Why should Chiesa be? I don't know, but it's plus money, which does make you think, because it's minus money for Chiesa to get the finish, or Chiesa by decision. Yeah, there's not much there. Plus 135. That's my prediction, but again, there's not much there inside of the lightweight division. Marlon Vera, Davis, and Figueiredo. Obviously, Figueiredo not freaking cutting to 125 pounds, killing himself, and like, forgetting what guy said it, he was cutting like a full leg. Like, every weight cut, he was cutting a leg off of his body, and he's hiding his eyes, which I always find interesting for Davis and Figueiredo. He never shows what his eyes are looking like while he's on the scale. So I believe the eyes are a big portion of how you kind of look at a fighter on the scales, because their eyes tell a lot on how good they did on the scale. So there's not much you can gather for Davison. And not smiling or anything like that. But let's look at his opponent. Marlon Chito Vera. He looked good at the ceremonial weigh-ins, but I'm going to be straight up with you. Looked a little bit weird on the scales right here. Maybe it's because he cut the hair off and things like that. That could be screwing with my perception here, but Marlon Vera looked a little bit iffy on the scales. Obviously, Davison, he's at bantamweight now, has 10 more pounds. He doesn't have to cut, so he's obviously going to look good, but there's no glasses. Or he does have glasses on, which makes me really weirded out and hard to kind of do the weigh-in recap when you're wearing glasses, in my opinion. I still got Davison winning by a decision here. Do you want to bet Davison by a decision? Probably not. You're getting minus 112 on Figueiredo by decision. Don't do that. If you're going to bet Figueiredo, probably just bet the money line. Don't go to the props. That's crazy. Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, Sharaputin, Magomedov. I've been feeling pretty good on Sharaputin to go out there and get the win. Minus 250. Still feel pretty good about that one. I think that's right where the odds should be. Maybe even more for Sharaputin as a bigger favorite. I'm not liking how it's minus money for him to go out there and get the finish. Mikhail only gets finished by submission. You know, Sharaputin's not a submission guy. Let's just be straight up with everybody here. If he's going to win the fight by finish, it's going to be by knockout. The best odds you're going to get him by knockout is at minus 105 in the UFC middleweight division, whereas, where do we go? Magomed by decision there we go, we found it, is at plus 350. I don't know how you could look yourself in the mirror and put money on minus 105 for the knockout when... Let's just be frank here. Antonio Trocoli was his last opponent, and it took him to the end of round 3 to get the knockout. His opponent before that, Bruno Silva, didn't even get the finish in that fight. Now he's fighting a guy in Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, who, you know, has only been knocked out once in his professional MMA career. And when was that? 2014. So yeah, decision bet on Nurmagomedov. What else are you going to do for that fight? Corey Sandhagen, Umar Nurmagomedov. Oh, I forgot. We didn't even look at the weigh-ins for that co-main event. Sharaputin and Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Shar looked fine. Shar looked great on the scales. Didn't look too bad in my opinion. Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, I believe, because I saw the picture earlier, I don't think he looked bad either. He looked just focused and ready for war come Saturday night. Yeah, he looked great. He looked great on the scales. So neither fight's an issue. Neither fighter has an issue with me on the scales there. Last one is Corey Sandhagen, Umar Nurmagomedov. Again, I got Corey. He's my dog of the card if you watch that video. I feel very, very good about Corey going out there and getting the upset. He looked great on the scales. Obviously, it's the weigh-ins. You're not going to look absolutely amazing, but he didn't look horrible on the scales. And Umar Nurmagomedov also looked very, very good on the scales in my opinion. So I don't think that's going to be a factor. It is 5 rounds, though. This is the first time Umar has to deal with going the full 5 rounds in a main event inside of the UFC. That's obviously a huge factor, and I think Corey will win a majority of those later rounds. Maybe like one of the first 2 or first 3, Umar will probably win with the wrestling. But the later and later the fight goes, I got Corey winning. So, duh. The betting breakdown for this fight, come on, underdog bet on Corey Sandhagen. And then if you're looking at the props and things like that, a decision bet on Corey Sandhagen, because that is pretty big plus money there at plus 750. But yeah, that is pretty much my betting breakdown, my predictions for every single one of the fights, as well as the weigh-in recap for every one of these ones. I didn't mention what money lines I am making. I didn't mention the props that I'm making, the parlays that I'm making for the card. I kind of gave you some general advice for a lot of these fights come Saturday night. But if you do want the actual bets that I'm putting money on, I think I have, let's think about it, maybe like $2,000 in total bets on this entire card. So if you want to go check those ones out, again, link in that pinned comment down below or in the description. Thank you guys for watching this video, and have a great rest of your day.